Well, greetings YouTube. I'm back again with another trailer reaction podcast today. This one being a franchise that we've covered several times on this channel already, and that, of course, being the Resident Evil film franchise. Now, this trailer premiered on Attack of the Show just a short while ago. It is up on YouTube. It's about a minute long, and it follows, of course, the tradition, or well, kind of a trademark of the Resident Evil film franchise, although it isn't the originator of this stunt, where their trailer is faked out to look like something else. That started off with Apocalypse, where they regenerate skincare commercial, and then but after she applies it for a little bit, she starts turning into a zombie. It's somewhat of a for the teaser trailer release for these. It's somewhat of a tradition for the franchise. It's nice to see they're bringing that back. Only this one's probably one of the most, like I said, it wasn't the first. This isn't the first series I've tried this. This is a long time trick gag to wheel you in, but this is probably the most effective one I've ever seen done for this type of trailer. In that they were actually had a. It looks like it's starting off as like a Sony commercial for like one of their networks or for a phone, one of theirs, and they're all using Sony stuff. And you clearly see Sony labels all over the place. So it's rather effective, good use of. Probably they sold that as cross promotional, but for effectiveness for a trailer, as long as they put this trailer as like the first thing between, as we all know, if you go to the movies nowadays, and there is you see regular commercials or specially made commercials for movies before they start playing the trailer. So if they put that right there, or it's like the first trailer that plays, it'll probably catch a few people off guard. Still was a little choppily done. I think Apocalypse had a little bit better transition going from the fake commercial into the actual movie trailer. But, as so often I do on this channel, I digress. Quick first review of my opinions on the Resident Evil film franchise. A lot of people don't like this film franchise. I think it is a portrayal kind of the video games, and it really doesn't follow the plot at all. I've covered this in my previous videos. I like it as just a action movie. I kind of really don't treat this as being any, like, I kind of forget that this is based on the video games. I take it as being inspired by. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a movie that happens to have the same character names and a few similar designs. Really, the big thing is, I think the way you should take this franchise is look at it as how Marvel, and I've said this one before, Marvel has its regular universe and has its ultimate universe, which is taking the characters, tweaking them a bit, changing them around, changing the organizations, changing the world around a little bit with a different tone. That's the way I treat this. The video games are their own, they're the core, but there's this ultimate universe of Resident Evil, which I treat the movies as. So I don't get too offended when characters are not done how they are like in the films. Although I still say they could have done a better job with Chris Redfield. They at least give him some sort of backstory that he had some sort of previous connection with Wesker. Like Wesker, I think I've said this before too. When they confront it, have him go, "Wesker, seen you falling up in the world." It's like, Chris, you had me thrown out of the military. Well, now I'm an evil corporate guy. Something along those lines. Say they were in the military, Chris got him kicked out. It would have gone, oh, okay. Hence why he knows the Redfields. It works. But enough of that dilly-daddling, because we have screen captures from the trailer, which I took. And by the way, these probably don't look like the best screen captures. Sorry, it's something. It's just how the computer worked and how they took them. They're not high def. Oh well. First one, it's actually from about the end of the trailer, but before I get started on that, backtrack. I have also been following news. I actually was planning on this week doing a video on Resident Evil Retribution, like a speculative video, because I watch a lot of Milla Jovovich's videos that she's been doing from the set, and for the most part they're not worth watching. It's just her kind of rambling on about random crap and people you don't really care about, but occasionally you watch them and you actually get tidbits. Actually, some of the more useful stuff was just people who were kind of near the set and pulled out a smartphone and started filming. So, for example, this first shot here, which is actually from later in the trailer, but it shows what happens directly after Afterlife ends. That Umbrella air fleet arrives, and lo and behold, battle breaks out. Guess it explains. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. It's going to be interesting if Alice, who's supposedly depowered now, can take on this entire fleet, or she gets captured. I mean, I know the Redfields are supposed to be captured in this. Kind of makes the ending to Afterlife a little pointless, and that whole Arcata will be our new hope thing, which I thought they were going to go for ending the franchise, turns into we're gonna kill everyone off in the next 2 seconds. We'll see how they do this. I guarantee you, they're gonna wind up blowing up the ship, and she'll wash up on shore, and Luther will come pick her up, because we established Luther's in this one again, and actually I kind of like the character. He was a star athlete done not as an asshole. That is rare. He was a genuinely likable guy, so you're kind of happy that he actually lived, and now at least he serves some sort of purpose for the franchise plot. But I guarantee they wind up blowing it up. You can see in this picture the plane from the previous film. Interesting note I think on these Umbrella troopers here. They're wearing trench coats, it looks like. That's a little different, and I think from what I've seen early in other parts of the film, it doesn't look like the other Umbrella troopers are wearing trench coats. So I guess this is Special Force. I'm wondering if they might be Wesker clones, because he liked to wear the trench coat, and I think that might be one of the things. We'll get into the clone thing later, but I think this might deal a lot with clones. And it's also possible, because spoilers, well, not really spoilers since the film's not out, but we do have returning characters of Rain and the Commandos from the first one, who will be returning. Again, I'm going to get into that in a second, but it could be that as a character they come back, maybe they'll be blown off the ship, and it turns out, hey, it's a clone Rain, or a clone 1. We'll find out. But it certainly shows the movie's going to pick up right where the last one left off, which is good, because that was quite the cliffhanger. Well, not quite the cliffhanger, but it was a cliffhanger, and it's like they're going to try to get their way out of that. We'll see how well they do. At least I think most likely, actually, we'll probably have a little like them going over the plot of the entire franchise, and then going and kicking right into the opening action scene. But next picture is probably more interesting. One, this is the fucking apocalypse, man. Yes. Now this is probably the blurriest of the pictures that come out. That big open white object that you see in the center, which is lit up, is in fact the White House. Doesn't really look clear. This is what I was worried about with the quality of the screenshots I got. But yes, this is Washington D.C. We get a shot of zooming in, kind of a reverse shot of the end of the first film. You can see right there in the center, it is the White House. It seems to be surrounded by a wall. There was a couple more shots. You can kind of tell stuff like there was like a flamethrower turrets and stuff spraying. Apparently the entire thing is surrounded by zombies. If this is supposed to take place during the regular timeline of the film, man, they've got to really figure out how long the apocalypse has been going on, because it's probably been at least a year since the world kind of collapsed, and then DC still burning. I mean, they had LA burning in the last one too. That stuff does end eventually. But of course, alternatively, this could be like that opening scene where they kind of go, oh, the zombie outbreak broke out. The world tried to hold all them off, but they couldn't. This is a scene where they just kind of show that real quick. But more interesting, if you look on the left, you'll see these flying bat-like creatures. I know there was a flying creature in Resident Evil 5, so this might be the same thing. They might have just made flying lickers, to be honest. Either way, it's good to see that they're bringing back the actual bioweapon mutations, because That, I think, was the thing that really distinguished Resident Evil from all the other zombie franchises. Yeah, a lot of the other zombie franchises have mutations of a zombie or like the super zombies. But with Resident Evil, it was always these were biological weapons, and really the zombies were just an unwanted byproduct of the bioweapons. So it's nice to see these things make a return, which we didn't see in either Resident Evil Extinction. They dropped the lickers. We just had the one Dr. Isaacs mutate at the end, and they were not counting the Las Plagas from Resident Evil Afterlife or the big giant fucking dude, axe dude. He does not count as the bioweapon. At least in my book, some people might, but yeah, I want actual unique creatures. And I should have grabbed a screenshot of it, but we also see later on another huge, looks like a really massive licker, like beefed up on steroids, chasing a car. Which could be in Washington, might not be. Could be in Moscow, because that's supposedly one of the spots that they're going to be in. But yeah, this kind of zooms in on the White House so you get a much clearer picture. It's definitely the White House, and it comes on into Alice. And this is kind of an interesting shot. One, if you see the guys behind her, they don't look, they're not wearing the black, so I don't think they're Umbrella soldiers. And they're not shooting directly at her, so that's making me think maybe this is the last bastion of the government. And this also could be they inserted her, just her kind of standing, like they had shot her on a green screen and inserted her into this shot, and then in the actual movie it's just going to be a zoom in on the White House showing them kind of collapsing and going again over with the her speaking over the government's tried to hold the line but they just couldn't, and this is kind of showing the end of the US government or something. Could very well be. It could be this is like the end shot of the movie where she tries to help and reestablish the world. Maybe she's helping them hold the line against the zombies. Could be the end. It could be the beginning. It could also just be a complete shot they made just for the trailer, and we're not going to see it again. Which they had done that in the teaser for Resident Evil Extinction. They had a shot of Las Vegas, which they didn't use in the actual movie. So we could see that. Anything else to talk about with this shot? Like I said, could be the beginning of the movie, could be the end of the movie, could be an interesting action scene in there, could just be pointless for the trailer. We'll see. But there's some interesting premises, possibilities at least with it. This, however, is a little bit more interesting. This is one, again, helps that I looked at some of the behind-the-scenes footage. This is definitely the set they were using for Raccoon City. And yes, they blew up Raccoon City before. And it looks like there's going to be a flashback of sorts to the Raccoon City's demise. I think they filmed this around Toronto, so it's like even the same neighborhood, or if not the exact same neighborhood, very close looking to the ones they actually had filmed for Apocalypse. But more interesting, that's Alice, or that's Milla Jovovich at least. We know from the other movies that during this timeline she was in the hospital. She was getting examined. That was where she was for most of the initial outbreak, and she only got out of the hospital after everything went to hell. So who is this? This is where it gets interesting, and this is where the speculation really kicks in. And there's three possibilities we have. The one, and I think the one that a lot of people are jumping to immediately, is this is an Alice clone. That maybe our Alice is not the first time she was cloned. We know that there was they cloned an entire army of her, and they seem to be doing that after the apocalypse, so one would assume that they had the technology beforehand. So maybe a lot of people in Umbrella are clones. Yeah, it's a possibility, add to the ultimate, conspiracy theory. Umbrella is kind of controlled by a bunch of clones. They believe in creating clone supermen. We really don't have too much of a backstory on her. However, in the kind of extended universe materials around it, or the extra lore, stuff that wasn't directly in the movie but was kind of put out in some promotional materials and some background information for fans, Uh, there is talk that Alice had a sister who was complaining how she had went missing. She couldn't hear anything. Umbrella wasn't being helpful or anything. If that is the case, then perhaps she has a twin sister, and this is Alice's twin sister. And it's a possibility. I don't know what purpose that would serve to the plot, so that's seemingly, I would say, put it on the bottom, but it's a possibility. The other, I think, is since they played with psychic powers before, maybe she winds up tapping into the psychic memories of the zombies, and she kind of, as a visual aid, they insert her into what the person was, or who the person was, right up to when they got attacked by the zombies. So, because right after we see this shot, something comes in from like the left-hand side of the screen. It looks like it's a zombie about to attack her, so that could be like the last thing as a person a zombie would remember being attacked. So perhaps Alice is tapping into that. And the reason I'm kind of leaning towards that is this next shot. With Alice sitting in what appears to be the opening scene from Afterlife, which we know she wasn't anywhere near. So it could be her like feeling the memories of the zombies and having her put into the location. Another thing is it could be part of both of these could possibly be part of an opening sequence where they kind of retell what happened. First it was Raccoon City, and then the virus spread to Japan. However, if that was the case, you wouldn't expect her to be in the combat outfit. So it's interesting, but it does. I think that's why I'm kind of leaning towards the psychic flashback type ideal. It would probably more explain this shot. If it was just the other one, it could be more clones, or it could be more just she has a sister. We know there's going to be a rather decent sized flashback though to Raccoon City. We'll get into that in the next. Well, not next shot, but we'll get into that in a bit. Here we have the reveal of Michelle Rodriguez returning. She actually kind of takes her gas mask off, very similar to how she took her gas mask off in the first film. So nice little nuance I picked up there. Hey, and it's glad they show these Umbrella Troopers how they're supposed to be, or the USS guys, the Umbrella Security Services. Gas mask, helmet. I mean, in the movie they were in gray, or in the games they're normally wearing gray BDUs, but okay, movie franchise, we've established that the Umbrella security guys wear black. But here she is. Two possibilities again with her. This is either a flashback and they kind of show maybe that her and Rain knew each other beforehand. It's possible. I'm still kind of leaning towards the clone option, that they kind of have clones of their security people. Yeah, because I remember in the game franchise, they did talk about like the Wesker was kind of the product of a super soldier program, and I almost kind of look at this as what happened. Looking at this is kind of a divulsion. If Wesker had done things a little differently and maneuvered himself to become head of Umbrella, this is how things would unfold. And I could easily see him, or in this case, this regular Umbrella, creating perfect kind of genetic soldiers and then kind of cloning them to be the heads of the corporation or running their things, being their elite special forces. Or in Alice's case, she was running the security at the Hive facility. So it's a possibility that is what's going on here. Could be the flashback. But it would, interestingly, I'd criticize the film kind of, especially the last one, how like everyone's wiped out, but Alice is kind of just goes in and kills what would have been thousands of probably the few remaining survivors of humanity in that Umbrella Tokyo facility. And yeah, Umbrella's corporate staff or executives are assholes, but most of the soldiers, I mean, come on, Alice was one herself at one point. So is Carlos's character, who, by the way, apparently Carlos is back too. It could be a flashback, could be they clone him. He did work for Umbrella. So it could be that. But yeah. Back on point. I forgot what I was talking about. No, it could be that is just how Umbrella operates. They use the clones. Oh, no, sorry. skipping ahead there, or skipping behind. Yeah. If Umbrella's security forces are made up of clones, after all, we really don't see too many of their faces. We see only a handful. One that would explain why they are always kind of faceless minions, to kind of cover up the fact that they're using a giant clone army. But it would also go, okay, so they're not real humans, they're clones. They're clones that have limited free will, maybe. They only follow the orders of the executive. Could explain it. And it would alleviate the moral kind of, oh, you're killing all these grunts, but these guys are probably just sticking with Umbrella because they're the only organized human force left. So they're assholes, maybe, yeah, but, if you were in a situation, you'd go with Umbrella. They offered you some safety, even if you're making up that safety yourself by being part of their security forces. But regardless, you get the point. It would relieve that kind of criticism of why she didn't just try to kill Wesker and not kind of slaughter every single Umbrella soldier that worked in the facility that probably weren't bad guys necessarily. But if they're clones, it's different. Our final shot here is of Ada Wong. Not the best shot, but it does clearly show her. This looks very much like it is the Raccoon City set. So this might be part of the flashback. We obviously haven't seen her previously, but in the films, doesn't mean she wasn't running around Raccoon City. She's also being, in the trailer, she's being fired on, probably by Umbrella Security Services, I'm guessing. I can't figure out who else would be shooting at somebody. So it's curious, what does that mean? Is she working for a third party, like in the games where it's like an organization, technically working at that time for Wesker, but they could make it up for somebody else, maybe another group of survivors? She could possibly be working for that environmental organization from the first film. She's another one of their agents, perhaps, and she's trying to get data on Umbrella and kind of help prove, the conspiracy. Or she could be a Chinese agent. You might simplify it. She was a Chinese agent caught in America after the apocalypse happens. Could be the case. I haven't heard her talk yet. I know the actress is a Chinese national, so she'll have an accent. We'll see how that works out. Hopefully I haven't seen anything with her in it. Her name is, actress's name is Bingbing Lee. I haven't seen any of her previous work, so I'm not sure how she will be in this film. I am happy at least that Sean Roberts is back. Looking over her IMDb real quick. Obviously a lot of Chinese productions, and she was in The Forbidden Kingdom, which I haven't seen, so I don't know how she is in an English language film. I'm sure she'll probably be fine. I am happy though that Sean Roberts is back as Albert Wesker, because he really, you can tell the guy was enjoying himself, and he played an over-the-top villain, which I liked. I mean, he was just over the top. If I like B movies, okay, I think that's where a lot of people come down. The people that, all right, there's three types of people. There's the people that are legitimately snobbish, not snobbish. People that hold their movies to a very high standard. They want everything very well done, and I do to a degree as well. But then there are people that also will put movies into two categories that they like. There's B movies, or the guilty pleasure films that we know going in aren't going to be that good, but it's just something to keep us entertained. And then there's your more thinking, sophisticated films. I'm that type of person who does like the B movies. And then there's like the third category, which are just idiots who really like bad crap and I don't get why. I can appreciate a B movie for what it is, and so it kind of explains why I kind of like the Resident Evil franchise, because I'm not treating it as the same way I would treat, let's say, Sin City, even though Sin City's got some stuff too. I want to treat it like the same way I would treat Amistad or or War Horse. I'm grading those movies much differently than I would Resident Evil. But we shall see how everything turns out. I do like the imagery. It looks even more like apocalyptic. It makes me want them to do. We've kind of had the alien invasion movies. Do like a straight up apocalypse movie where like the fucking gates of hell open and demons are attacking. The army goes and fights them. That would be a cool one. I want to see that movie made. And I'm not talking about like the Left Behind series. No, we're not talking about those movies. A fun apocalypse movie. That would be pretty cool, in my opinion. Yeah, maybe if they ever get Panzer 88 made. But, I digress. Now, I do have some other big news coming out regarding the channel. We are going on a hiatus for quite a bit, but I do recommend anyone that follows my stuff, check out the next video. It's going to cover some big news I have for my own personal life that will affect what goes on here in the channel. So check that out. Signing off.